Are you ready? Are you live? 1 second. We're ready.
I will call the June 24th, 2024 meeting of the Newtown Township Board of Supervisors to order. I will note that the board did meet in executive session on June 18th, 2024 to discuss the police collective bargaining negotiations. And then I will also note that we met in executive session this evening at 6:15 to discuss with regards to litigation matters and one active zoning hearing matters, one zoning appeal, and with regards to personnel matters, discussion of the collective bargaining negotiations. With that, Mr. Neese, can you please call the roll?
Mr. Altieri,
Here.
Ms. Roberts Lightcap,
Here.
Mr. Russo is not here. Ms. Chanlis,
Here.
Mr. San Francesco,
Here.
your solicitor, engineer, and manager are here.
Thank you very much, Mr. Neese. We will now move down to the moment of silence. And we will stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Section 5, agenda 5.1. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second. Motion made by Supervisor Roberts Lightcap, seconded by Supervisor San Francesco. Is there any board discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Section 6, public comment for agenda items only. If there's any members of the public who wish to provide any public comment, please stand up to the podium, state your name and address for the record. Let the record reflect that there is no public comment. Section 7, 7.1. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes from the June 10th, 2024 meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Motion was made by Supervisor San Francesco, seconded by Supervisor Roberts Lightcap. Is there any board discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Section 8, reports. 8.1, report from the police department. Chief Lunn, do you have anything to supplement?
Nothing to add.
Thank you very much. 8.2, report from the fire department. Chief Young is not here to add anything. 8.3, report from our public works director, Mr. Sharretts. Nothing to supplement. 8.4, report from the director of code enforcement, Mr. Reczek. Anything to supplement?
Nothing more to add.
Thank you, sir. 8.5, report from the finance department. Nothing to
Nothing at
add.
this time.
8.6, report from our library director, Ms. Caruso. 8.7, report from the township engineer, Mr. Johnson.
Good evening.
Good evening, Eric.
I know we have a few items on the agenda that we'll talk about on various projects we're working on. For just a quick update, that Hansel, Martin, and Valley Forge Road stormwater projects currently out to bid. Bids are due next week on the 3rd. And then also the St. Albans Circle project is also out to bid due next week. Other than that, we're also working on the next stormwater project, which would be the Water Edge. I think we've touched on it briefly to help that neighborhood with the flooding that's coming down the hill. We're working on that project now, and anticipation look to go out to bid next month. And then as far as the Ellis Avenue sidewalk, I believe you've been filled in that we are currently in correspondence with the contractor, and at the request, we've scheduled a walk through the site with them for further discussion. So unless you have any other questions.
Any questions for the township engineer? All right, thank you very much, Mr. Johnson. Report from the township manager, Mr. Neese.
I just have two quick things this evening. The first is just a reminder that George is working on the salt bid for the multiple municipalities. And I believe we'll be putting out the advertising and moving forward with that over the next week, or not next week, but the following week. And then Cadillac Buick, Hill Cadillac Buick came in. They want to change where their sewer flow is headed. Currently it heads to the Hickory pump station. They want to move it so it goes through the through the Old Masters Pump Station, all of which still goes through the Camelot Pump Station. So it's not any additional EDUs, it's just where the EDUs are going, and it requires a planning module with DEP. I will be signing that and moving that forward unless there's an objection.
Any objection or comments from the board? All right, seeing none. Anything else, Mr. Neese?
Nope, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. We'll move down to section 9, payments 9.1. Can I get a motion to approve the following escrow payments? $2,139.50 escrow release payment to 10 Campus Boulevard at 10 Campus Boulevard for a completed grading project. $145.50 escrow release to Nicholas Berardi at 606 Tennis Avenue for a completed grading project.
So moved.
Second.
Motion was made by Supervisor Roberts Lightcap, seconded by Supervisor San Francisco. Is there any board comment? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. 9.2, can I get a motion to approve the $100 payment to Scylla Services for a payment review, for a permit review fee refund for review that did not take place as the project did not move forward?
So moved.
Second.
Motion was made by Supervisor San Francisco, seconded by Supervisor Roberts Lightcap. Is there any board discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Section 10, bills, 10.1. I reviewed the bills and I'll make a motion to approve the bills on check register A dated June 24th, 2024, totaling $196,824.75.
Second.
Motion is made by the chair, seconded by Supervisor San Francisco. Is there any board discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. 10.2, I will make a motion to approve the bills on check register B dated June 24th, 2024, totaling $20,389.41.
So moved. Or second.
Motion was made by the chair, seconded by Supervisor Roberts Lightcap. Is there any board discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Section 11, developers release, 11.1. Can I get a motion approving the,
And as you're making this motion, I'd like the motion to read, consider approving the release of the remaining sewer funds associated with the financial securities.
hold on.
And not limited to just the 35,000.
Am I still referencing that 35,000 or taking that out
You're
completely?
taking that out, please.
So, and nod with me if I'm wrong, but I'll make a motion, or is there a motion to approve the release of the remaining sewer funds associated with the financial securities associated with sewers for phase 2, 3, and 4 relative to the sewer lines in the Lister development, pending the final review and approval by the authority engineer and council?
So moved.
Second.
Motion was made by Supervisor San Francisco, seconded by Supervisor Roberts Lightcap. Is there any board discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Section 12, new business. I get a motion to approve the request to sell the following decommissioned vehicles at an upcoming auction at J.J. Kane Auctioneers in Plymouth Meeting, as well as give the township manager the required document to sign the required document.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is made by Supervisor San Francisco, seconded by Supervisor Roberts Lightcap. Is there any board discussion? So Steve, what I'll do is we'll approve this and then I'll just go down to 14.1 and read that resolution.
That's fine.
Okay.
I just would make note, these are vehicles that you had authorized to sell before. We found that this would be a better way to sell them more quickly, and they're not of any real value. They're older vehicles. So that's why we're looking at doing this way.
Any other board discussion or comments? Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those
Aye.
opposed? Motion carries unanimously. For ease, we'll go down to 14.1. Consider approving resolution 2024-13, disposition of township decommissioned equipment at auction. And I will read this resolution. Resolution number 2024-13, disposition of township decommissioned equipment. Whereas the township of Newtown is the owner of certain personal property hereinafter described, which the Board of Supervisors has determined should be sold or otherwise disposed of. Now therefore be resolved, the Board of Supervisors of the Township of Newtown does hereby direct the Township Manager to dispose of the following personal property at public auction. 2006 Ford Explorer. Rich, I don't need to read these VINs, do I? No. Thank you. 2010.
Just as listed.
Okay, yeah, okay, so, 2006 Ford Explorer VIN is listed, 2010 Ford Explorer VIN is listed, 2011 Ford Crown Victoria VIN is listed, 2017 Police Ford Interceptor VIN is listed, 2019 Police Ford Interceptor VIN is listed. It is understood that these decommissioned vehicles will be sold in an upcoming auction at J.J. Kane Auctioneers in Plymouth Meeting, Pennsylvania. It is further understood that the final sale price for these decommissioned vehicles will be reported at the next appropriate Board of Supervisors meeting. Be it further resolved that the Township Manager is authorized to execute any necessary agreements with J.J. Kane Auctioneers in Plymouth Meeting, Pennsylvania, following a review and agreement from the Township Solicitor, adopted this 24th day of June 2024. And that is my motion.
Second, that was a second, right? You second,
You-
second.
It's all good. You're right, Supervisor Roberts, Cap. So the motion was made by the Chair, seconded by Supervisor San Francisco. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. 12.2, can I get a motion authorizing staff to move forward with the application to Delaware County Council for the allocation of liquid fuels tax funds to be utilized for curb ramp and crosswalk projects?
So moved.
Second.
Motion was made by Supervisor San Francisco, seconded by Supervisor Roberts Lightcap. Is there any board discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. And now we'll move down to 14.2 to consider approving resolution 2020. Excuse me? Oh. We'll move down to approving resolution 2024-14, application authorization for liquid fuels allocation for a curb ramp and crosswalk project. Supervisor Roberts Lightcap.
I'd like to propose a resolution number 2024-14, a resolution authorizing an application to the Delaware County Council for an allocation of the county liquid fuel tax funds in 2024 for a curb, ramp, and crosswalk project. Whereas the undersigned municipality desires to take advantage of the act approved June 1, 1945, EP 1242, as provided in the act approved May 18, 1945, LP 80803, permitting counties of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania to appropriate and expend monies for the improvements and maintenance of state highways and state aid highways or public highway in any county of the Commonwealth. Therefore, be it resolved that we, the officials of Newtown Township, Delaware County, Pennsylvania, in regular session assembled on this 24th day of June, 2024, to hereby make application to the County Council of Delaware County for the 2024 allocation of county liquid fuel tax funds in the amount of $14,364, as well as the 2023 allocation of county liquid fuel tax funds in the amount of $14,364,000, which was deferred for the use this year to be used toward a curb, ramp, and crosswalk project at Radnor Drive and Hilltop Road in Newtown Township. It is certified by the municipality and the officers who execute this application that materials used and work done hereunder shall conform to the current Pennsylvania Department of Transportation specifications or specifications approved by the department, and that all work will be done within legal right of way or with permission of the abutting property owners. Adopted this 24th day of June, 2024. That's my motion.
Motion was made by Supervisor Roberts Lightcap. Is there a second? Seconded by Supervisor San Francisco. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Of point three, can I get a motion to consider, can I get a motion to approve awarding Charles A. Higgins and Sons Incorporated as the lowest responsible bidder for the speed feedback sign project?
So moved.
Second.
Motion was made by Supervisor San Francisco, seconded by Supervisor Roberts Lightcap. Is there any board discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. 12.4, can get a motion accepting or rejecting the one bid received for the Bartram Bridge Structural Rehabilitation Project from Eastern Highway Specialists, Inc. in the amount of $577,000 for the base bid, no bid for alternate one, $2,800 for alternate two, $26,000 for alternate three, $12,000 for alternate four, and no bid for alternate five.
What's that mean?
So let's do this. Let's get the,
So moved.
do we need a,
Do we need to have a motion?
are you asking us to do a discussion or do you want a motion first? Like,
Well, I think the staff is recommending rejection. Willistown's already voted and rejected it. So the staff would be recommending rejection. You could make the motion accordingly that you're rejecting, and then move forward.
Okay.
Or if you want to accept, you can accept, but I would assume that you do not want to cover the full 577,000.
so what's is the board okay with staff's recommendation to reject?
Yes.
So Suzanne, I'm going to amend that. Instead of saying to consider approving or rejecting, instead of having to reread, I'm just going to say we're going to make a motion to reject it. That's my motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Supervisor Roberts Lightcap. All those in favor to reject the bid signify by saying aye.
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 All is opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Mr. Chair, if I could real quick, we're, just so the board understands what we're going to do, we're going to go out, we're going to put documents, the engineer is Newell Engineering. They're going to put documents together to just do the stonework at the bridge. We've gotten permission from the grant, Keystone Grant, to allow us to apply the 100,000 that they've given us to that work. So that's what we're going to focus on, because these came way, all the bids, the two different times we bid this have been way more than what we thought it was going to be based on some information that was shared with us. So we're going to focus just on getting that stonework done and get that foundation secure so the bridge doesn't wash away. And then we're going to come back and potentially do some other work just to make it safe, but not do all the other work that was intended.
What's the time frame on that?
My understanding is the engineer is working on the new bid documents, which I don't think will take very long because it was in the original bid. So as soon as we get that information, it'll be before you for advertisement. I'm hoping at the July 8th meeting, if not for sure at the August meeting.
So because this is the second time we've done this and we've rejected them both times based off of the price, are we doing, like, what's the situation there? Like, why does that keep happening?
Well, I think we went out and tried to get some ideas of what we thought the costs were going to be ahead of time. In both cases, we had been given some numbers that were much less than this for doing some of the work. And then when we came back to bid, only one bidder bid it, and they bid basically the same thing both times. The difference being that the fact that we pulled some work out, the stonework out. And so this was without the stonework included. The stonework's the most important part of the project because that's the piece where the water's coming under the current Goshen Road Bridge, and it's washing out the part of the foundation of the Bartram Bridge. And so we need to address that. And so that's what's going to be addressed first, and then move forward at this point. So like I said, we had talked to somebody who did lumber work that kind of indicated they thought the numbers would be much more in the line of what our original budget was. That's why we went out to bid that's why we had the budget we had originally. But I don't know whether the contractors have thought different now that the project's gone out to bid. I can't tell you why they didn't bid. I just know they didn't. And we're trying to move forward to get at least get it so the bridge is not in danger of anything happening because of the foundation being undermined.
All right. 12.5, can I get a motion approving the advertisement for the request for bids associated with the paper mill house roof replacement?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Supervisor San Francisco, seconded by Supervisor Roberts Lightcap. Is there any board discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. 12.6, can I get a motion approving the Giant 2024 Healing the Planet grant as requested by Newtown Square and Bloom, contingent on the approval of the Shade Tree Commission at their June 27, 2024 meeting, and authorizing the chair and the township secretary to sign the required document?
So moved.
Second.
Motion is made by Supervisor San Francisco, seconded by Supervisor Roberts Lycap. Is there any board discussion? Can you just talk about the grant?
From my understanding, this is a $4,000 grant that we're working on getting a match from the state on. A state grant to match it is, I think is how I understand it. This grant would be for planting trees and potentially, I think we're looking at maybe cleaning up some of the vines that we have along the Goshen Trail and cleaning up that area where we would need to plant some additional trees just to kind of continue to grow the shade back. It had not had chance to go before the Shade Tree Commission. The Shade Tree Commission needed to weigh in. So that's why it's before you tonight, but the grant has to be turned in by the end of the month, which I think is the 30th, when it grants due. And the Shade Tree happens to meet this week, later this week. And so that's the reason why they're out of order. But just how the meetings fell, and that's why you're approving it conditioned upon them also approving it, since they have authority to give you direction related to trees on township property.
And to be clear, we're looking at doing this along the Goshen Trail, correct?
That is correct.
Perfect. Any other board discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. 12.7, can I get a motion approving the sewer facilities planning module for 3111 Sawmill Road, which is consistent with the land development approval?
So moved.
Second.
Motion is made by Supervisor San Francisco, seconded by Supervisor Roberts Lycap. Is there any board discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. 12.8, can I get a motion setting the hearing date of July 8, 2024 to consider an ordinance addressing home-based businesses?
So moved.
Second.
Motion is made by Supervisor Roberts Lycap, seconded by Supervisor San Francisco. Is there any board discussion? Mr. Sikora, do you just want to, I know we're going to talk about it on July 8th, but can you just, within a minute, give a quick overview of what this ordinance is and why we got to where we are today?
For the historic,
Microphone?
historic overlay ordinance,
No, this is the one on the home base.
home-based, sorry, so home-based business, essentially, in Newtown Township right now, we have, regulations regarding home-based businesses and when they can come in and operate, and they have to come in for special exception approval. There's a difference between home-based businesses that have minimal impact that we allow in residential neighborhoods. And then there's home-based businesses that have zero impact. You just happen to have an address there and you just work from home from a computer. The idea that people are coming in, having to spend money to get special exception approval to operate a business in their house when they're not getting deliveries, they're not having customers, there's no signs, there's no parking, they just have a business registered there. So that seemed excessive. So the idea was, let's break out minimal impact home-based businesses that still have to come in for special exception approval, and then no impact home businesses that should just be able to operate by right, as long as they meet all of the criteria of the zoning code. And so that's there to relieve the residents who would otherwise, they come in to register their business according to our code, and then all of a sudden they get hit with this notion they have to come in for special exception approval, $800 hearing. It's a big deal.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sikora. Any questions from the board? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. 12.9, can I get a motion setting a hearing date of July 8th, 2024 to consider an ordinance adding 571 North Newtown Street Road and 3201 Westchester Pike as Class 2 historic resources in the Township Historic Resources Overlay District?
And that's the one I thought you were referring to earlier. So this is a zoning amendment to our historic overlay map. So we have a historic preservation ordinance to protect certain structures and resources in our township that you consider historic. The process, there's a historic commission, there's a resource list, and then there's further protections once a property is identified to be protected. And one of the ways that we can do that is through our zoning code. So there's limits on the ability to get permits, and there could be additional uses that you allow for historic properties in the future. But in any event, the way we document and classify these properties is by updating this overlay map. And so that's a text, it's a map amendment to our zoning code. So the Historic Commission has looked at a number of properties and made recommendations to the board that they be added to this historic overlay map. Two of them are on for tonight, and there's property owners are in agreement with them being listed. And so we'll have that hearing in a little bit. And then the board had asked that we not do all four that are pending right now at once. So two in 2 weeks and two tonight.
Perfect. And you will be meeting with the planning commissions and the historic commissions so that we can make sure that we have a streamlined process for this moving forward.
Yeah, we have, I mean, the process is set forth in the code.
Yep.
And so we're not going to create a new process, but yeah, we're going to meet just to make sure that everybody understands the way the process is supposed to work, just to make sure it goes smooth and without issue.
Perfect. Any other questions? Well, I guess we got to make a motion. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is made by Supervisor Chandler, seconded by Supervisor Roberts Lightcap. Is there any further board discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
So that hearing will be advertised, properties will be posted, and the property owners we also created written letters for those property owners to receive, to explain the process to them and why they're coming in.
Have these properties gone to the planning commission yet, or is that this Thursday?
Yes, they've been.
They were there, all right.
Okay, 12.10, can I get a motion to approve the updated employee manual?
Second.
Motion was made by Supervisor San Francisco, seconded by Supervisor Roberts Lightcap. Is there any board discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Now, we all knew the background of this employee manual, but I realize this is a big deal for the township. So Mr. Neese, do you want to just give a quick overview of what it
Yeah.
is that we did there?
I would say
I
that.
apologize for that.
That's all right.
We've talked about it and
I know we talked about it a lot.
I read it during paternity leave, so I have PTSD from waking up at 2 a.m. and 5 a.m. reading it. But I did when I was feeding her,
Very
so it
excited.
helped me fall asleep too.
I'm glad to know it worked as to help you fall back to sleep. The employee manual, really not a whole lot of major changes. The big thing was there was several of our issues related to just harassment issues and things like that we hadn't kept up to date on. Not that we weren't doing the right things as a township, but they weren't in the employee manual that way. And so we updated those and brought those to being more current. Probably the biggest change is that all new hires, starting really last year, we did a minor change to it and we went to PTO time versus having both sick, vacation and additional holiday time. We put all that in one bucket for the new employees. So that's probably if you want to look at a meaty change, that was probably the biggest change that happened in there. The rest of it was mostly language changes and making sure that we were consistent with all the state and federal regulations as an entity. And that's what that was about.
Perfect. Thank you very much. All right, now we'll move down to section 13, public hearing. So Tom, are you ready? So I will note that it is 7:40 on June 24th, 2024. And we are going to open the hearing for 14 Phillips Lane. I will note that I will note that there has been a continuance that has been requested until July 8th, 2024. I'll turn it over to our solicitor if he has anything he wants to add to that.
No, that's it.
Thank you very much. With that being said, we'll close the hearing also at 7:40.
But we're going to relist it for July 8th at
Yep.
this time. So it's open just to relist it to July 8th, 2024. And then we'll proceed unless another continuance is granted.
Now we'll move down to 13.2. And we will do, I will note that it's 7:41 on Monday, June 24th. And we are opening up a hearing for the historic property at 28 Paper Mill Road. We will do that one first. I will ask if there are any members of the public that are here to oppose this application, please come up to the podium and state your name and address for the record. Okay. Seeing none, this is going to be a lot smoother and quicker than if we were being opposed or if the application was being opposed. I want to note for the record that this is a legislative hearing. This is not a quasi judicial hearing as if it's the zoning hearing board. What we will do is I'll turn it over to the representatives from the Historic Commission to come up and present your case to the board. At that time, we'll open up to the board, ask any questions. Once your case is concluded, if there's anyone who comes late, I'll give them the opportunity to also question the Historic Commission with regard to the property in question. We'll open up the public comment and then we'll move to the next one. Okay? We're going to vote on them together, ideally. Okay. Do you have anything, Mrs. Score? Can you give an overview of this process, where we are, and what the?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, so this is the, what we had just started to explain. We just listed such a hearing at our next meeting. These have already been selected for a hearing for this evening. So we had the newspaper advertise this hearing on July 10th and July 17th. We had the properties posted. And so this is a hearing. It is not like a zoning hearing or a conditional use hearing, which is like a quasi judicial hearing where you take evidence and then render a decision on the evidence. This is a legislative hearing. This is an opportunity for people to be heard, your constituents to be heard. So that you don't have the same standing rules. And this is just, and essentially people can come and tell you why they support this legislative change or do not support this legislative change. The legislative changes, the amendment to the zoning map for these two properties to be listed as historic resources. Okay, so because it's just like any other text amendment, the process is you create an ordinance, you identify those properties to be placed on that map. You forward that to the Township Planning Commission. You forward it to the Delaware County Planning Department, and you give each of those bodies the opportunity to review it. This was, of course, all started by our historic commission, our Historic Preservation Commission, that decided these properties should be on the list and came to you with that. And everybody has recommended approval for these two properties. The property owners, I understand, are not opposed to these two properties being placed on the list, on the map. And so what we're here for tonight is to hear from perhaps the Historic Preservation Commission to tell us why they think, if they choose, why they think this property should be on the list, to hear anybody else who wants to weigh in and hear if there's anybody opposed. And then you can close the hearing and then just you vote to either approve the ordinance or not approve the ordinance. We do have both properties on the same ordinance. So you might want to hear each property separately, but you might want to vote on the ordinance after hearing both properties. There's no specific order that you have to follow. And if there's one that you suddenly do not want to include, we can just pass the ordinance with one of the properties removed.
Perfect. Do you have any exhibits you want to enter into the record?
Just the posting and the legal notice that was advertised on July 10th and July 17th in the Delaware County Daily Times.
You want the posting to be T1
And then
and the
T2.
notice is T2?
Yes, sir.
And what was the date that was noted or that it was in the daily? Do you need the date for the Daily Times?
July 10 and July 17.
July 10th and July 17th.
And there's a number of documents attached to the agenda that you can just review.
June 10th.
I'm sorry, did I say July?
Yeah.
I'm June.
And I wrote down
Yes.
July 10th,
Yeah.
July
The
17th.
next hearing's in July, June 10 and June 17. June 10 and June 17.
Okay, we'll move over to the Historic Commission. Who's going to be presenting this case? You can just state your name and title for the record.
Name and
Title.
Ah,
Just
I'm
make sure
good.
that, is that microphone on?
I see green.
Sounds good.
My name is Chris Wilson. I'm the chair of the Newtown's Historic Commission.
Rich, do we need Chris to be sworn in? No. No, Tom.
Good to go? All right. We are talking about 28 Paper Mill Road. This is one of about 100 properties that was identified in the 1984 Historic Resource Survey that was done by Delaware County. When we passed our ordinance and started our Historic Commission, the owner of this property approached us and asked that this property be added to the Historic Resource List. As such, it's one of the first ones that we're doing. The millworkers house at 28 Paper Mill Road was built in or about 1835 for the workers of the Moore Woolen Mills. It's part of the historic mill complex on Paper Mill Road. And the exterior of it has been restored to look consistent with how it would have looked in the period it was built. It meets several of the 10 criteria that the ordinance lays out. The ordinance requires a property to meet one criteria. This one, based on its connection to the industry of this town, its age, its unique looks, meets several of those criteria. So because of this, the Historic Commission is requesting that this be put forward and added as a historic resource in our ordinance.
Can you, for the record and for the board, state what the criteria the Historic Commission identified for this property?
The criteria for this property would be a part of the historic fabric of this township, a part of the historic industry of this township. I don't have the actual list in front of me, so I don't know how they particularly read. So we identified criteria 1, property is a significant character, interest, or value as part of the development, heritage, or cultural characteristics of the township. That's what I'm speaking to, of it being a part of the founding or part of the development of the township, part of the development of the industry of the township. We also listed it as criteria number 2, property is associated with an event of importance in the history of the township. Once again, that has to do with its history as in the industry and life of this township. We identified it as criteria number 7. Property is part of or related to a commercial center, park, community, or other distinctive area which should be preserved according to historic, cultural, or architectural motif. That would be the historic Mills District. We included number 8, property owes its unique location or singular physical characteristics representing an established and familiar visual feature of the neighborhood, community, or township. And we listed number 10, property exemplifies the cultural, political, economic, social, or historic heritage of the community. I want to read number 10 again. Number 10. I can read number 10 again. Not a problem. Property exemplifies the cultural, political, economic, social, or historical heritage of the community.
Okay. Anything else from the Historic Commission?
Not on this property now.
Perfect. Any public comment on this property? Okay. This property, 28 Paper Mill Road, will close the hearing for this one. Okay, we'll go back on the record. Thank you. All right, and we'll open up the record for the hearing, excuse me, for 120 North Newtown Street Road at 751. Mr. Wilson,
All righty,
if you can, just state your name and title again for the record.
I can do that. My name is Chris Wilson. I am the chair of the Newtown Historic Committee. 120 North Newtown Street Road is the Friends Meeting House. It also was one of the properties documented as culturally and historically important to the township in the 1984 Delaware County Resource Study. The Friends Meeting House was completed in 1711, so it has been a fixture on North Newtown Street Road for 300 years. It housed and continues to house the Quaker meetings in the township and has done so for 300 years, and was founded by one of Newtown's oldest families, the Lewises. We determined that this property met criteria number 1. Property is a significant character, interest, or value as part of the development, heritage, or cultural characteristics of the township. We determined that it met criteria number 9. The property has yielded or may be likely to yield important information in the history of the township. And we determined that it met criteria number 10. The property exemplifies the cultural, political, economic, social, or historical heritage of the community.
Anything else, Mr. Wilson?
I do not have anything else. In support of this as well, the commission forwarded they had an application to have this considered, and they attached some photographs which are on the agenda here, some write-ups on, there's a cemetery associated with it that goes back to 1708. So there are some documents that you also just want to put your application in and the supporting documents, right? Yes.
Any public comment on this property? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Wilson. You can just keep it. It's fine. All right. With that being said, Mr. Sikora, do you have anything you need to add to this?
No, I mean, there's nobody opposing it. The property owners were in favor of it, and the Historic Commission recommended it. It was recommended by both planning commissions, so it's just up to you to consider whether you want to pass the ordinance for one, both, or neither.
What is the board's desire?
This is Kathy. I think that we should pass both of them.
Is there a motion, Kathy? Or Supervisor?
Yep, I'll make that motion. Yep.
Perfect.
Second.
Motion was made by Supervisor Chandler, seconded by Supervisor Roberts Lightcap. To approve the historic properties at 28 Paper Mill Road and 120 North Newtown Street Road. What we'll do is we'll take a vote on this, and then we'll read the resolution that we have with it as well. All those in
The
favor?
actual ordinance, right?
The actual ordinance. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, motion carries.
I just want to be clear that the actual,
I'm getting that out right now, right?
I understand, just,
Supervisor Sikora, right, Supervisor
no,
Sikora.
no.
I'm still listening to Sikora.
I didn't want to interrupt. I just wanted, but the motion is to approve the 2 properties to be added to the historic resources overlay map, correct?
Well, what we're gonna do now is we're gonna go to 15.1, where we're gonna consider approving ordinance 2024-04,
Yep.
amending the zoning map
Yep.
to add 28 Paper Mill Road and 120 North Newtown Street Road as historic resources. And for that, we'll turn over to Supervisor San Francisco.
An ordinance pursuant to Article 6 of the Pennsylvania Municipalities Planning Code, amending the Newtown Township official zoning map to add 28 Paper Mill Road and 120 North Newtown Street Road, the Historic Resource Overlay District map as Class 2 Historic Resources. Board of Supervisors of Township of Newtown, Delaware County, Pennsylvania, does hereby enact and ordain that Section 1, the Code of Township of Newtown, specifically the zoning ordinance, chapter 172 as amended, and the zoning map of the Township of Newtown hereby amended by adding 28 Paper Mill Road and 120 North Newtown Street Road to the Historic Resource Overlay District map as Class 2 Historic Resources. Section 2, the Township Manager, or his designee, is directed to revise the Historic Resource Overlay District map of Newtown Township, Delaware County, Pennsylvania, to incorporate the above described properties. Section 3, all ordinance or parts of ordinance inconsistent herewith are hereby repealed. Enacted in order this day of the 24th day of June 2024.
Second.
That is my motion.
Motion was made by Supervisor San Francisco, seconded by Supervisor Chanlis. Is there any board discussion? I will note that T1, exhibits T1 and T2 are also admitted to the record. Is there any comment from the board? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously, and this hearing is officially closed at 7:57. As always, Tom, thank you for your service. Appreciate it. We'll now move down to section 16, board comment. Is there any comment from the board of supervisors? All right, seeing none, we'll now move down to section 17, public comment. Is there any public comment? This meeting's adjourned. Thank you, everyone.